That's true. And I think that informs the way that immigrant groups tend to think about issues like discrimination and affirmative action, because on the one hand, I think that they recognize disparities in their community. They realize the constraints on opportunities that they face in the marketplace, in the educational field. But at the same time, they're strivers. You'll find that immigrants really believe in that pick yourself up from your bootstraps philosophy, and they don't want to be seen as folks that really need that much of a helping hand. So there is that tension. But I think that if you look at the fights over affirmative action, because I think you can have a reasonable argument about affirmative action, how those policies should be designed. But it is interesting that politically, when you look to the states where these fights over affirmative action rage, for example, California in the mid-1990s, in Arizona in the elections in November, voters will vote on an affirmative action initiative. It's interesting that it often happens hand in hand with really heated debates over immigration and demographic
So it doesn't
change.
come out of nowhere.
Exactly.
So you as immigrant-interested media, you can't go on and publish every week and say, above the fold, page 1, don't worry, we love America. There is an attention to the places where America falls short.
There is. And I think that what's important isn't so much where you come down, but it's having the dialogue and having immigrants and people that maybe are on different sides of the opportunity divide discussing that every day in the media, in their homes, in their workplaces, what have you, because you don't want the debate to be solely carried out by people who have had every opportunity.
Ali, I got to tell you, some of the most poignant conversations I've had in the last 10 years are with Arab Americans who feel both things very keenly.
Right.
That they thank God that they're here. They are grateful for the opportunities to become engineers and pediatricians and anesthetists and all kinds of the tremendous array of jobs that they've moved into in the middle class across America, and a tremendous sense of discomfort at the same time.
Right, and I think what Tom said a great point, and it's well taken, but it illustrates what I am going to talk about. That he said that Arabs or Muslims want to impose a Sharia law, or they attacked us because of our way of life. Robert Baer.
Well, those that did do, right?
No, according to the head of the CIA unit that tracked Bin Laden, he said in his book Imperial Hybris that the reason Al Qaeda attacked the United States, it's not because they disagree about the way of life, the middle class, the McDonald's culture, and the comforts here. It's because of America's foreign policy. This is, come from the CIA agent. And Bin Laden himself and his family were capitalistic people, and they still are. And Bin Laden was here in this country before he turned into terrorism. The other thing I want to say, when I talk to Arab Americans, I talked to an Egyptian friend of mine who happens to be Muslim, and he was telling me about another fellow Egyptian who happens to be Christian. He said to me that only in this country that he felt the disparities and the tension between a Christian and Muslim. He said in Egypt we lived as Egyptians, we've never had an issue of a black or white or a Muslim or a Christian or Shia or Sunni. So, and it happens with the Iraqis or Lebanese. So what does that tell me from an empirical perspective? That all these people that I have talked to, that in this country, discrimination, although subtle, in this day and age, but it is still an undertone.
Come on, Ali. You're going to tell me there's no discrimination against Copts, Egyptian Christians?
Well, there is, but but I'm saying about how the people. There is discrimination, but it is not enshrined in law. For one thing, if you look at the Egyptian jails, all Muslims are in jails for political reasons, for Islamic. Political Islamic beliefs.
Right. So the Egyptian government is equal opportunity oppressors.
Right. But I'm not saying that Christians, not just in Egypt, all over the Arab world, they have they've been discriminated against on religious grounds, but that's not the norm. That's not part of the culture. It might be individual cases. And remember, Arab Christians are part of the fabric. They did not immigrate from somewhere or come from somewhere. They're the indigenous people. And Jesus Christ was born in our region in the Middle East. He was not born in Washington, New York, Athens, or Moscow. So they are part of the fabric. But the point I'm trying to make here is that in this country, you come to realize who you are, your identity, because you've always been reminded of who you are. My name is Ali. I know I'm not going to. I call, like, for example, the office of Senator Jim DeMint. I'm from South Carolina. They would not respond to me. I told my name is Ali, and I want to talk to my senator. They would not even call me back.
But you're sure that they would have if your name was Bob?
If my name was Bob or Billy Joe Bob, they would call me back and say, come over, let's take a photo opportunity with a senator, But for all these reasons, if I as a black or Latino or Arab or any other minority, if I am not accepted, the way I am, the way I look, or the way I talk, then I will fall back into my religious beliefs, to my community, and get into the ghetto or the cocoon of my community and embrace my identity more, and in the process I become less American. I become less associated with the mainstream, with the larger society. And I think that's what we see in immigrant communities, that when you are not accepted of who you are, when you're not educated. I mean, do I have to have a PhD to have economic upward mobility? Although we have an open society, hard work will get you somewhere. At least that's what we learned in school. But a lot of times, as we saw in the videos, and what Marcel's have said, your name, your looks, your accent, sometimes it blocks you from going anywhere.
Well, I mean, we moving toward a more perfect union, still aspirational, but not quite there?
Well, Ayn Rand used to say that smallest minority in the world is the individual. And what I keep trying to come back to is let's focus on the individual. What allows people of different religions, different faiths, different philosophies to live together in America in peaceful coexistence? It's the idea of individual rights. It's a great achievement of America. You contrast it to a theocracy like Iran. They're not about individual rights. Okay, so the American system has something to offer here, including equality before the law. So if Ali cannot get a hearing with his senator, that's wrong, and he needs to take action. He needs to hire. Linda needs to refer him to a law firm down there and get a lawsuit going against Jim DeMint's office because he has an equal right to petition his senator as any other American.
But that's the antithesis of individualism. When you don't get a second call back after you apply for a job because your name clearly marks you as being a member of a group or something like that.
Themselves. If you got an employer, I mean, there are people in the South who are still fighting the Civil War. There are people who won't go into Yankee land because they hate the North. People hurt themselves with all sorts of irrational actions and beliefs, including not hiring somebody of a different race. They hurt themselves as well as the person they're discriminating against. I think if you talk about affirmative action, and you brought that up, if you're going to evaluate that, you have to look at the whole picture. So you cannot just count the number of Hispanics, blacks, whoever, in positions of authority in academia or in jobs. You have to look at the justice of the situation. And the fact is that in affirmative action, the individual who is passed over in favor of a preferred ethnic minority or other minority is being done an injustice. He's being punished for something that he did not do anything wrong. He's being held responsible for the evils of his great-grandparents before the Civil War, or he's being held responsible for the racism of other people who may share his skin color who are living today. That is unjust, and it should not be tolerated.
Very quick, Linda, because we have to go to a break. But
it's just a misapprehension of what affirmative action is about. I mean, there are plenty of people of color who have higher test scores, et cetera, who get passed over for people who are white and don't perform as well on the same test. So just saying that affirmative action allows for consideration of different ethnic or racial backgrounds is fine. And the quotas are a different issue, but